hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. In my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart, controlling me, controlling me. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sunday edition of the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories From Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I hope you're comfortable. Hope you're in your jammies. Hope you brushed your teeth and you're ready, because it's time for bed. I love that intro. All right, welcome. This is the Bedtime Stories From Beyond, ladies and gentlemen. That was I just winged that whole intro. I was pretty proud of it, though. It's time for bed. All right. So, hope you guys are doing great. Happy Sunday, and hope you had a great weekend. But tonight, we're going to talk about ghost stories in our Bedtime Stories From Beyond segment. And if you're not familiar with the Bedtime Stories From Beyond series here on the Paranormal Portal, it's our new series that we're launching in a shorter format of the show. It's just going to be 10, 20, 30 minutes long, but it's just a way to reach out and give you guys a portion of the portal that maybe is a little easier to consume. I know a lot of people don't have 2 hours, and up till now, or up till we started these shows, that's all we had to offer. But now we're starting these new shows, and it's been a wonderful reception, and thank you all for the encouragement, and I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, and now I don't have to miss doing the portal in between shows, so here we go. Tonight we're going to talk about more ghost encounters, and of course we did the first edition of the Bedtime Stories From Beyond was Ghost Encounters, so this is number 2, and these stories are amazing. They're, most of us I think can relate in some way or another to having a ghost encounter. I mean, it's either we have had them ourselves or we know somebody who has, and for the most part, I think people are open to the idea that, when they happen, they're shocking, they're unnerving, but most people have room in their paradigm for the idea that ghosts can be around. And I hope through doing the portal that, we're discussing this quite a bit and helping people understand what that means. I think that in most cases when ghost encounters happen, people feel powerless. They feel like, I've lost control. Something's happening that I have no control over. I can't see it. I don't know how it's doing what it's doing. And it makes me feel weak and vulnerable. And hopefully what we're doing is teaching people how to reclaim their energy, reclaim their authority, and to reclaim their lives in situations like this, because feeling helpless is a horrible, horrible feeling. And you do have options, you do have choices, you do have the ability to state whether or not you're okay with what's going on. And 9 times out of 10, the spirits will listen. They don't want to cause you problems. They just want you to know they're there, or they want to tell you something, or they want to share some kind of information in most cases, or, just they don't want to be forgotten. So an acknowledgement is important. And again, to reiterate what we said many, many, many times on the show, lay down your rules. I'm okay if you're here, if you're loving and kind and a very positive energy, but here's what I'm okay with. Here's what I'm not okay with. Don't do this, this, this. It's okay if you do this, this, this. You can say things like, if you have children, don't scare my kids ever. Don't pester the animals, etc., etc. You can claim your space, and your home is a sacred space. So, chances are a lot of people are sharing homes with another entity, and they don't always know it. But anyway, we're going to get into some stories of people who have encountered these things and see what they have to say. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about each of these stories as we read them. But thank you to all of you guys that are here with us tonight. I know some people are rolling in, and it's Sunday night, so I guess a lot of people are gearing up towards Monday, and maybe I started this a little late tonight. I'm trying to find the sweet spot of when to launch these. A lot of times I'm looking at the clock going, oh, it's already that time, I got to get going. So tonight I was meaning to do it around 7, and I think that's probably going to be the time for all Portal episodes eventually, but I'm just trying to iron this out still, and I had a lot of things I was doing today. So anyway, the first story is, I have a friend who's in her late 80s, and she's experiencing some problems. She loves dolls. She just bought a ton of dolls at an auction, and they were from around the early 1800s. A couple of nights ago, she had them all spread out on her dining room table and left them there when she went to bed. At about midnight, 12 that morning, I guess that's midnight, yeah, she heard a noise and woke up and got out of bed to see what the hell the noise was. And she walked through the hall and into the dining room. She saw a little boy sitting at her table. She got a little closer, and then she realized that the whole side of his face was burned, like maybe he had been caught in a fire. So she started shaking her cane at him and started yelling at him, saying things like, "Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" And so on. The little boy looked up at her, stood up, and then disappeared. This, of course, startled her, and she spun around to go back through the hall. And now her den is right next to the dining room, and as she was turning, something caught her eye in the den. She looked in again and saw a man staying above her coffee table, looking at something. She started yelling, and the man immediately disappeared as well. So that was just a couple of nights ago, and now, this last night, she was sleeping, and around 5 a.m., she heard another noise and woke up again, and this time she saw a young lady in what looked like pre-Civil War type of a skirt, which was full length and such, and the lady had a small, fine, what looked like a paintbrush in her hand, and it looked like she was painting the mirror that Margaret has on her wall. Margaret started yelling again, and she disappeared. She eventually fell back asleep, and then at about 7 a.m., she woke up and saw a young African-American girl, about possibly 14 years old, standing at the end of her bed, and she was wearing the same type of dress. The girl looked like she looked like she was looking down at something near Margaret's feet. And again, Margaret yelled at her, and the ghost disappeared. So this lady's yelling a lot. She's pretty freaked, and she can't really figure out what's going on and why this is happening. I think it has something to do with the dolls. That day after the sighting of the little boy and the man, she packed all the dolls up and put them in a spare room. I think these ghosts might be the owners of these dolls, and they're just looking for them. We've tried to convince her that she needs to talk to them, but she refuses. And again, ladies and gentlemen, when you bring things into your home, and especially things that have such a history, you can't be too surprised if they come with some extra attachments. Comes with free attachments. And in this case, these aren't designer attachments. They are in the form of spirits. And if you ever bring something into your house and you start noticing things go awry, and we've done shows on this too, where we've talked about how to, introduce things into your home and things that you can do before you bring them in your home. I would be really careful. I don't think I would. Well, best practices, of course, you never bring a whole bunch of stuff in your house at once. But, this is a real world where people are doing stuff, they're busy, and you got to get them done. If you bring things in and things start going sideways, take them out, put them in like maybe an outside garage or somewhere that's not in your living space, and see if the activity then goes down or levels out. And if it does, then look at that object and look at how to get it cleansed or blessed or something to release whatever negative charge or charge is on it. Now, I don't think that these were negative spirits at all that this person was dealing with. They were just spirits that were somehow attached possibly to these items. And I think if she wasn't experiencing this before, but bringing these dolls home, all of a sudden she's experiencing things. It seems pretty clear that she was probably these beings were probably attached to the dolls in some way or another. Now, that doesn't mean these are haunted dolls. It can mean that. It could mean that several of the dolls were indeed haunted dolls. But it could be, as the author suggested, that maybe these were special dolls to them. And if they do come from the 1800s, back then a doll was a significant investment. It was quite a sum of money for someone to buy a doll for their child, or to make a doll for their child was a significant undertaking as well. And so the fact that they could have an energy attachment to them doesn't surprise me a little. Old dolls definitely probably do all carry some sort of vibration, but that doesn't mean they will always be a manifestable consciousness. But, anytime you introduce things into your house, cleanse them, bless them, sage them, maybe, do a salt blessing with them, whatever you believe. And the show is never going to be about giving you a religious practice. Whatever your religious practice is, that's what's powerful. Whatever I tell you, if it's not something that you observe or believe or follow with your heart, it doesn't matter how profound I think it is, it won't be that effective for you. But if you're a Christian, use some Christian rituals and practices like holy water and et cetera, et cetera. If you're Wiccan, then you'll want to use some herbs, salts, moon water, spirit water, things like that can be incredibly strong. And saging is also very strong. So whatever you observe, whatever means something to you is where the power comes from. So whatever follows your belief system, do that. And if you can't, then bring someone in that can. Doesn't matter what you believe in. There's always somebody who's in a position to help with problems like this. So just my 2 cents, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I think it's the dolls. So, all right. The next one is, this is a little one. It's a pretty quick little story. But on one really cold night, it was raining outside and it was lashing down on the windows and the darkness was really heavy. And I was laying on my bed and I couldn't sleep because the rain was absolutely pounding on the house. I lived only with my mother and my father at the time, and I was only about 10 years old. And I wasn't sure if it was only my imagination, but I started to hear things, to hear noises, like a man breathing really heavily. And I thought it might have been my imagination, and I didn't want to go and wake up my parents. But the noises got worse, and the whispering came really clear, and he was trying to tell me something. But I really began to tremble, and the louder it got, the more scared I became. I plucked up the courage to reach for the light as I felt someone holding me back. I turned and glanced at my mirror, and I suddenly saw an old man standing behind me. It then disappeared, and to this day I have never seen him again. What did he want from me? I will never know. And that's a tough one. If it's a one-time apparition, it's hard to know if it was something to do with the house, if it was something to do with perhaps a protective family spirit, an ancestor of some kind, or grandparent that turns into a guardian. It's tough to know, but for whatever reason, that spirit chose to manifest itself to this person, and it didn't seem like it was a negative experience so much as it was there. It was maybe trying to reassure her because of the power of the storm, and it was just a grandparent kind of spirit. So hard to know, but I think it's a really cool story. You just never know when it's going to happen. That's the thing with the paranormal. You don't know when something paranormal is going to happen. It just happens when it happens, why it happens. And that's the rules as I understand them. All right, so let's see. Oh, I guess I thought I had another one up, but I will get another one up. The third story tonight is called... I don't know what it's called. Let's see. I just gotten out of prison a couple of months earlier and had a tough time adjusting to my new sleep routine. I had a full-time job at a factory, and working the day shift, I would wake up at around 3 in the morning every day, and therefore I was usually asleep by 6 or 7 every night. One night I was laying in bed watching TV, and I was living with my parents at the time, and I was a little scared to be at their house because it's in the country and they have no dusk to dawn light. I usually slept with the TV on, and I rolled over to face the wall and go to sleep, and as I was laying there, relaxing and almost asleep, nature called. What did nature say? Sorry. It's funny in my head, ladies and gentlemen, and that's just the problem when I have a microphone. I rolled over to get up, and there in the corner of my room stood a young man. To this day, I can still tell you what he looked like. This happened almost 7 years ago. He stood very still, looking down at the floor. He had blonde hair, a really pale complexion. He wore a navy blue hoodie with pockets on the front. Both hands were in the pockets. Tan-colored pants and dark shoes. I looked at him for a few seconds and then rolled back over. My heart was beating really fast, and once I got the nerve, I flew out of my bed and into the living room. My parents thought I was absolutely nuts when I told them the story. I know what I saw, and I know it was real. Now, here's the thing. If you want to ever go to an extraordinarily haunted place, go to a prison. There are such charges of energy in those places. They are just so strongly, powerfully charged, and with despair, with sadness, and with all this negative energy. Now, many spirits are transitory. They will move from place to place. So if for some reason when this person was incarcerated, a spirit for whatever reason decided that it wanted to be around this person, so when this person left incarceration, the spirit more than likely followed. And this is what they're experiencing now, or when they were out. This account comes from, it was recorded in 2007, so it's quite a while now. But I would almost bet it does, for the visual cues of it, give me the idea that this was an urban type of person in life, like perhaps from a city or something. It wasn't dressed, and from what I took from the story, the narrative, even though it was short, my idea is that they're living out in the country, out in the sticks, and perhaps they mentioned that, and I don't remember. It says the house is in the country, so yeah, that's why I got that idea. I'm a sharp pencil. I'm just telling you that. But so that look could have been, somebody that was in the prison, and for whatever reason they lost their life. They may have ended their lives. That's the unfortunate part of prison life, is that sometimes people decide that they just can't do the time, and not in those circumstances, and so they look for the alternate route. And unfortunately, it does leave a lot of unfinished business, I'm sure. And so I think everybody and their brother knows that unfinished business is a big reason for someone to linger. So I would guess that they probably brought it home and they were released, and it's still there, or was at least as of the time of this writing. I don't know. I hope the person found someone to help them get rid of the attachment, or the attachment itself just moved on after a while. I think that people can be therapeutic. That when a spirit attaches to somebody, and that doesn't always imply a negative thing. It's just you remind the spirit of something. It could be a family member. It could be somebody they loved. It could be something. Just something about you reminded them of something that they held dear or was important to them. So they attach, or basically just stay close for a period of time. Now, that doesn't imply that they will never, ever leave. They may very well leave on their own anyway. So it may be that this spirit needed to move away from the prison environment, followed this person, stayed for a while, and then has gone on to do whatever it is they do. Just some thoughts. I don't know for sure, but that's just my intuition saying that, it very well could have been just a temporary type of attachment. And again, attachments don't mean negative necessarily. They're just meaning that they're around you for some reason. It could be that this person also is sensitive, but may not even know it or have abilities. And that, of course, is always a magnet. So I think that about wraps it up for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Just a quick, sweet bedtime stories from beyond. So I just want to thank you all for being here and being a part of it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I love doing these myself. These are a lot of fun. And I just guess I will be back tomorrow night doing another Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I think I'm going to aim for the 7 p.m. mark, so I hope you will join me and let people know that we're doing Bedtime Stories from Beyond now. So I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. And I guess I just want to say have sweet dreams. Good night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow night here on the portal. Woo!